Okay, so round two for the Mum Juggle team training that I wanted to put on tonight. So I'm just going to make sure everyone is on mute because it's just in record, which would be awesome. Okay, so now the reason why I put this training on is it was really funny. The last 2 weeks, I actually have had a lot of team reach out and asked to some advice or asked to be on a Zoom call just to have some tips around how we kind of juggle this business around children. And especially mums. I think we're all mums on this course. We're going to be very much more mum orientated about how to run this business. Or it could be if you're pregnant looking at doing this business around children in the future. It's like knowing how to do that. How do we actually do that whole juggle? So I'm going to start going back a little bit and just kind of sharing how it started and what life kind of looked like for me, and I really want to give you guys some tips and strategies, because I really feel that if you don't plan out what it could look like for you, what often will happen is we run into the day, or we fall into the day, and it becomes stressful because we are doing the mummy juggle. And when you are doing the mummy juggle without a plan and without some strategies that are going to be for you, you can find yourself exhausted and thinking, okay, how do I do this? So I think it's really important to be practical, and that's what I really want to do tonight as well, is give you some practical things that really work for me. And guys, if there is questions that come up, write it in the chat. I will refer to that, because everyone's going to benefit from wanting to know the question as well. So if you have anything specific, just write it in. Okay, so most of you know, but for those that don't, I started this. Someone's just off mute. Okay, I started this business in July will be 8 years. So close to 8 years ago, I started the business. And at the time, I had a 2-year-old at home and nearly a 5-month-old baby. So I was doing the mummy juggle. I was very focused on being a stay-at-home mum at the time. And quite really, when I got introduced to the business, I didn't actually think how this would always look, because I'd never really done a business from home before. And you know, at the end of the day, I wasn't looking for something. Juice Plus really landed in my lap. And I really had probably more the mindset of, you know what, financially we're in a really bad way. And what if I could make a little bit on the side that could actually help with the finances? So that's really the reason why I said yes to this originally. It was just really to make that $500 a month that I could help with the bills. Now if we go back to that time, it was, 8 years ago, social media wasn't really something that we used all that much. So when I actually said yes to this, it was from an event. It was a face-to-face event, and I didn't know that we weren't using online. So the way I started this business was a lot to do with face-to-face. So even if I look back at then, I suppose it was harder in a way, because having children and actually having to do face-to-face, I didn't use really any online strategies. So that's why with me, I'm a big believer in, if I could do this business the way I have done it, anyone can do it. Like, honestly, anyone can do it. So right at that point in time, at the beginning, I did struggle. I'm going to be really honest. At the beginning, it was a struggle because it was so face-to-face, and I did have like babies and toddlers and stuff like that. I had to do everything with them. So I had to take them to places. I had to do things like that. And, that's what, in the end, what I think the biggest stake in the ground for me is what Luce touched on before. I had to be very, very clear at the beginning why I was doing this. Because I call it a stake in the ground, because this is a type of business, if that's not strong enough, it's quite easily to bring in the excuses and look at the excuses, and that will outweigh the reason why you're doing it. Because trust me, as mums and as busy women, there are a lot of things that are going to come up for you, whether it's children, whether it's family, whether it's husbands, whether it's home duties, whether it's all of those things that you can put as, you know, I don't like to say excuse, but it could be more of a priority than this business. So having that why extremely strong becomes a really important thing. And if that's not at this point in time, that's the first thing to work on. Because as a mum, and you know, when I looked at this business and really understood of what this could give us as a family, every excuse that I had, I actually wrote it on a piece of paper. And I wrote the things that would come up for me on a regular basis, and I used those excuses and made them my reason. And that's the thing with children, right? Because a lot of us as mums in this business do this business because we want to give more to our kids, because we want to have time with our children. But often what happens is, and I know that the ones that have reached out, there's a bit of guilt there. There's a bit of mum guilt that comes in the business, because all of a sudden you're like, oh, I want to be a stay-at-home mum and I want to be there for my kids, but I've also got this business on the side that's kind of does take me away from being present. And that becomes something that you really do need to work on, because it's quite easy to slip in the trap of, I'm just going to look at my phone, I'm just going to scroll, and there's going to be times when you're not present and that guilt will strike and you're like, I really should be concentrating on this, but I'm doing something else and my head's not in the game. Now, trust me, all the mums on here, I can tell you now, if I had to say, show your hands, how many of you felt like that in the business, I can guarantee you've all felt like that at one point in time, and we all do. So that's why it becomes really important to then do a bit of structure, do a bit of actually understanding and being aware that that is a very normal thing to happen in your business. Whether you've got 1 child, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus, I know Kelly's got 6. So, you know, we have a range of, you know, mums in this business that do the mummy juggle. So when I first started, that's what life looked like. So I had 2 kids at home. I still was able to hit all the fast track promotions. So that was something that, and I think all of you will agree with me. Once you find the passion in this, once you find that, you know, you found it, this is your home, this is a community, there's part of you that is pulling you into this. And I don't think any of you won't be here unless you feel that right now. Like there's a pull towards this. There's something that's deep inside that's going, I want to make this work and I'm going to give it a red hot go to make this work. So all this becomes then is actually making sure those priorities for you become, you kind of sort those out, sorting out those priorities. Of course, the kids are always going to be your first priority. And guys, please don't feel guilty about doing that. You know, I am a big believer in this business. You do, your children and your family are your first priority, and it will always be that way. Okay, so if things happen, life happens, kids are sick, this business allows you to put the things on the back burner, and you've got to be okay. There's going to be times in this journey that you have to allow that to happen, and it's perfectly fine. Business doesn't go anywhere. I think sometimes we get so caught up in, if we miss a couple of days and the kids are sick and my head's not in the game, then everything's going to fall apart. Do you know what? It doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. And this is the business that allows you to be that mum. So don't beat yourself up over that, because there's going to be times when that's going to happen. So in that first year, I hit that SSC promotion in that first year. So 12 months in, around the kids. Now, back then, what I kind of did is I made the kids very involved in what I did. So one of the things I did do was use my strengths as a mum. So as I said before, there wasn't much online, so I had to think outside the box. And some of us really have to think outside the box in this business of going, what do I need to create for me? What's unique for me as a mum? What am I passionate about? And when I started to think about those things, one of the things that I loved was teaching mums how to actually get their kids to eat healthy. And in my mind, I thought, you know what, this is a great way, again, to attract people and mums and actually make it more of it like a mummy's business when we're talking about things like that. So again, working in your values as a mum. So for me, I love lunchbox parties. So one of the things that I did quite regularly was I used to have mums over after school drop-offs and things like that, and actually do little lunchbox parties where we actually, and you know, I was never an expert and I never said I was an expert. We just used to actually sit around and give each other ideas of lunchboxes, you know, that type of thing. But I had the kids at home and they were like doing stuff, and you know, they were always around. I didn't actually put them in daycare or do any of that. They actually were always there. I just brought them to everything. So those were some of the things that I did that I could I suppose engage with other mums in the similar situation as me, to be able to say we can do this business together. And that's actually how I started to attract more mums into my business, is because I was very real about what life looked like at running this business and doing it from home. So be real and vulnerable in that space, and allow yourself to kind of attract those type of people. So how it went was, now I then became pregnant with number 3. I had Braden in 2013, and this was my run for NMD. So I built an SSC business. Then now all of a sudden I've got a newborn, I've still got a little toddler, and I've got one that was about going to kindy. So life was busy, right? Life was busy. And what I found is that, and I'm sure a lot of you might feel like this, actually the busier you got, the more structured you need to be. So I think at the beginning, I kind of winged it, I must say. I winged that first year, and I kind of did the juggle, and I probably didn't do things that were great, and I probably had massive mum guilt, which I know I did. And all of a sudden, I just thought, you know what? Something has to give. I have to do this as a proper business, and I have to structure my time so that I can be more present when I need to be present, switch off when I need to switch off, but build my business in times that were productive. And that's one thing I would stress for you guys, because I don't want to see mums burn out in this business, which can easily happen if you're trying to be everything to everyone. And that's one thing I would really urge you to think about. You know, we are pulled in every direction as mums. We have to, you know, be there for the kids at school, at home. Our husbands require time. You know, we need to give. And it's important that we come to a point in the business where we make some plans and schedule time. And I'm going to share this because this was my biggest moment of going, okay, I've got to work with this structure. And once I started to do that and work in the times I need to, things started to change and things got better at home. So I want to share a couple of things. The first thing I want to share with you guys is that you want to have family vision boards. Okay, when I started to do this, and everyone's going to have kids at different ages, so bear with me here. So some will have little ones at home, some will have school-age children. Mine were quite small at this time, but this was something that I did with my husband. And at the beginning, I don't know if any one of you guys have got skeptical husbands, but my husband was the biggest skeptic. And one thing I've realised, and especially working with mums in the team, is that it's very unusual to get a husband that supports you straight away. That's quite actually an unusual thing. If you do, treasure that, because it is quite unusual that husbands go, yes, I'm going to actually support you 100%. That doesn't happen all that often. Often you're going to find is that husbands also, they love and support you, but they also see you quite distracted all of a sudden. And they also start to see that you're doing and trying to juggle a million things and going, okay, what's going on here? Like before I had your attention all the time, and now you're like with the kids and you've got this business hustle and it's taking time away from me. And it's that in itself can put a bit of a strain on things. Now that happened exactly for me. And the biggest thing I would say is communication. Okay, communication is your biggest friend right now. If your husband is on the sidelines looking in and going, I'm still not sure about this, I'm still skeptical. one of the things I really did was sit down with him and explain, you know, and sometimes this might be difficult because not all husbands are going to want to listen as well, but communication is going to be the thing that you need to do, and have a way to talk about this business with them. And at the beginning as well, you're going to put in a lot more work for what you're going to get paid for. Let's be honest. That's going to happen because it's a building business. Okay, so also, again, husbands might get a little bit upset about that because you're putting time into something that might not be giving you the monetary rewards straight away. So again, it's explaining those things to him and actually getting them to understand this is what I'm working towards. This is what I see. These are the people before me that have done this. And yes, I'm aware that this is going to look like this, but this is what I'm working towards. And being very open to that. Include them as much as you can. Get them on a training. Get them to listen to a YouTube that, you know, you listen to and you're inspired by, and say, I'd just love you to listen so you understand. Once they start to be able to do that, and this is where you can get the kids involved too, is having some family goals with your children, because at the end of the day, what they want to see is that mummy's working towards something for them as well. Getting them to understand that there's going to be times when mum might be a little distracted, mum might have to be on a call on doing something here, and mum might need to put you to bed early so that I can get on a call, but these are the reasons why. And when I sat down with my kids and really visualised what I was working towards and what that looked like for them, and also making mini rewards for you and the family per month. So what I would often do is, okay, mummies might have to do a few things here and here this month. This is what it's going to look like. But at the end of the month, this is why we're going to do this, because I'm going to take you and do something special here, or like do an experience or do something so that they know there's a reason why mummy's working. And this is another good point to make. Often kids see us on our phone a lot. And there's a lot of mum guilt with that, right? Because they're like, we don't want to look like we're doing all this stuff on our phone because what are we showing our kids? All of that. Again, it's really important to show the kids that this is mum's work time. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's lots of mums that do different types of work. There's mums that go and have to go out to work and be away from the home. I get to do this, but this is what my communication looks like to my team and to the people I talk to. We do it through the phone. So my kids are very aware that when mummy's on the phone, she's just not playing games and she's just not having these random conversations. She's actually working. And again, I think it's important to tell the kids that from an earlier age. I'll tell you a quick funny story, because we have something called Giggling Geckos at school. And what that is the after school care. And there's one child in my daughter's year that goes to Giggling Geckos early and late. So she's there all day. And my daughter feels really sorry for her. And she goes, why does she get really upset when she has to go to Giggling Geckos and blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, you know what? That's what some mummies have to do. Some mummies actually have to go to work, and this is what happens with the kids. They have to do that. I said, you know what? Mummy made a choice that I didn't want to do that. I want to be able to be at home and have the flexibility so that I can be at all these things and pick you up from school and be at assembly and do all those things. And I didn't realise it made an effect on her. And only recently I turned around and I said, you know what if mummy decided to go back to work and I didn't do Juice Plus anymore, just to see a reaction? She burst into tears. She literally burst into tears and said, I don't want to go to Giggling Geckos. Mum, please work more. Please work more. So I did a bit of reverse psychology, but it really worked for her because it really showed her that, you know what, mum gets to do all these things and be around, but we still are able to do, so much at the same time and be able to have that balance. So talk to the kids about that, include them. It's so important for them to understand, why you're doing it, and make sure you reward them too. Like when you have that little pay, say, this is what mummy got paid and let's go out for a little ice cream or something, so that they start to realise that mummy does get paid for what she does. So little things like that, actually over time, it's so important. So the other thing that I want to show you is a little thing that really worked for me. And this might I hope it doesn't confuse you, but this really helped. So what family goals, family vision boards are really, really important, but it's also really important to look at what time you actually have. Has anyone, I don't know if any of you have actually sat down and have done a proper audit in terms of time audit of what your week as a mum looks like. Because until I did this, yep, Drew's going, yes, I did. Until I did this became a massive eye-opener of what times, she's like, oh my phone, what times you've actually got to do this business. Now, this is one of the little illustrations. Now, you can do this as a little kind of thing on your piece of paper, is drawing 2 circles, okay? And we've got AM and we've got PM. I don't know if this is backwards, but anyway. And drawing a little clock. Okay. 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So one of the things that what you want to do is start to look at the actual time that you have in 24 hours. Now, days might be a little bit different for you, but it's actually quite important to see what days you have your big rocks in. Now, the first thing I really want you to start think about is what time do you go to bed and what time do you wake up in the morning? Simple as that at the beginning, because these 2 things actually as a mum become really, really important. First of all, for sanity for you to make sure that you're getting enough rest, but second of all is actually to maximize your time. So with young kids, it could be a little bit trickier, but as they get older and as you get more passionate about doing this business and looking at how much time you have, is getting up that little bit extra. I know some of you might have been on Sunny's call last week. If you haven't listened to Sunny's call, have a listen to that team training, because he encouraged all of us as well. If you're getting up at 7 a.m. at the moment, get up at 6:30. If you're getting up at 6:30, start your day at 6. Try and utilize half an hour earlier. If you're getting up at 4, don't do that. if you're doing a 4 or a 4:30 or a 5, okay, you're doing good. That's early enough, and I'm not going to encourage you to get up any earlier than that. But if you're a baby at 6:37 or even 6, get up a half an hour earlier. So I change that, and I do a 5:30 start every single morning. And that literally has put on an extra 45 minutes in my day to be productive. So it's important to go, okay, what time do you go to bed and what time do you wake up? And what you're going to do is shade out those times, okay? So if you go to bed, say, at 10 p.m. or 10:30, you would shade out that time. Okay, and then we're 1 a.m. and you're getting up, say, 5:30, and you'd shade out that time. Okay, because obviously that's sleep time. You're not going to get anything done, okay, in that time. That's your rest time. Now, at 5:30, most kids get up 7, just before 7, 6:37. Some of you I know have early risers, which is a pain in the ass, but let's try and encourage our kids up to get at 7 a.m. Between 5:30 and 7, you've got time. This is before children are up. So for me, and this is something, again, personal development is a really important part of this business, and time for you. So that first thing in the morning for me is all about my mindset. Whether that's exercise, whether that's meditation, whether that's listening to something, that utilizing that time in the morning is key. Okay, and since I've done that, and since I've got into a really good routine with that, it actually makes my day flow so much better. So the first thing I do is exercise. I move my body at 5:30 every single morning, and when I come back from the gym, I listen to some meditation and a little podcast. Okay, that's my thing, and I'm done for the morning before the kids are even up. Okay. Now, if you want to do school lunches and stuff, you want to do that before, just allow 20 minutes to do that extra, or do it the night before, okay? It's about just being, okay, organised to go, this is the time to do that, okay? Again, so many of us, I think sometimes when we're stressed, it's because we haven't organised those little things in the day that's going to help us. Okay, now 7 a.m. till about 8:30, this is the time when you take your phone and you put it in a drawer in another room. For those that have got kids in the morning and you're getting them ready for school, get your phone out of there. And this is where discipline is very, very important as mums, because what I want you to do, and this is something that I've had to learn, the kids want you to be present at that time. They don't want you to be checking your phone. They don't want you to be distracted when they're talking to you. And when you are present, and this is what I've learned. Someone said this to me a long time ago, and it really hit home, because I always think with kids, you need to give them lots and lots of time, quantity of time. But in actual fact, they just want quality time. It doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours. If you are present for an hour with the kids or half an hour with the kids, it's amazing the difference of when you're distracted and you've got lots of time with them. For them, all they care about is your time. So in the times when they need you, have the distractions away. This was so important for me in the morning. I do not have my messenger going off when I'm doing school lunches and getting kids ready for school. Okay, so that becomes around 8:30. And once they're off school, some of you will have kids at home and go, okay, now I'm home, what do? Do I then go back to my phone and then I'm starting to like look after the kids around, blah, blah, blah? I want to share with you, when I had little kids, this is what I did. Because I wanted to utilize my time, I made sure that I was networking in face-to-face groups in the morning. So I'd make sure I'm at a mum's group. I'll make sure that I'm doing coffee catch-ups with the kids that have other kids, because then that's where you get to still do your business, still have the kids being able to interact with other children, and it can be a nice kind of environment. This can be something that can be an amazing part of your business. In actual fact, this is how I built my business in the mornings. I had mothers groups, I had coffee catch-ups, play groups. I allowed myself to be part of different things all the time. So that morning can become something that you can network with your children, okay? They're obviously going to have a nap time if they're little, around that morning time as well, lunchtime. Utilize your time. Now, some of you are like, okay, when do I do housework? Schedule that in. If it's the first thing you do when they have a nap, then do that for 10, 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Now, one thing I'll say to you, and I know this sounds crazy, but when I did do this, I realized that I do not want to clean the house. So that was my first ever goal in this business. I sat my husband down and I said, if I can bring in $1,000 a month, I need to utilize my time. Is my internet gone a bit funny? Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. Sorry, it just said it was unstable. The first thing I said to my husband was that when I looked at this, I was spending 2-3 hours in, every couple of days doing things that I just don't want to do, and I can utilize my time better. So I said, what if I could bring in the amount that I could pay for a cleaner? Are you happy with that? And he was like, go for your life. If you're going to pay that through your Juice Plus money, do it. So what that allowed me, it freed me up some time. Now, I'm not going to tell you all to go get cleaners, but it could be the first little goal that you have in your business that goes, okay, if I get to this point, I'm going to speak to hubby and get help. Because at the end of the day, we've got to maximize our times. So again, I didn't do too much housework when I was about hitting an MD. It was time when I went, right, this is what I'm going to do now so that I can allow time to work on the business. So in that time, you might have an hour there where you can literally do an hour of power. And guys, this is something that, again, don't fluff around in the time that you have, because our time is precious. And when you are scheduled in the time that you need to do the business, have a plan. Make sure you know your DMO. Make sure you know what you're going to do in that time, so you're not just scrolling through Facebook and doing things that are not high-paid activities. So whether that's a plan you need to put into place at the beginning and going, okay, Mondays are my customers' day focus. Tuesday are my networking and follow-ups. Wednesday is this day. Have your DMO very, very clear, so when you go into your hour of power, even if half an hour, whatever it is, you're doing work. Okay? Now, we come back to here, 1 p.m. Obviously, again, we might have a bit of time to school pick up, and if kids are around, you've got to put in time when you are present with the kids. And, if they're off playing, if they're doing something, it's okay to be on your phone now and again, but don't be distracted by that. That's all what I would say. And allow yourself to give it snippets of time. And if you're finding that you need to put that away, put it away. Now, the biggest thing here is when I'm at home after school pickup, again, that phone goes away. There is between pretty much 3:30 till about 6:37 after dinner. Now, the kids do know, though, mummy works at night, okay? Mummy works at night, so they know that daddy often, I'll go and give them a kiss, and if they are playing up, mummy's not coming back because they need to know that this is mummy's work time. I am there, I'll kiss and cuddle them to go to bed, do all of that thing, put them down, that's all good. But there's going to be times when mummy needs to go to work. So they know that, and this is where you maximize your time. This is the part, okay? So put the phones down, be present in that time, have dinner with your kids, do all of that, and really from 7:30 or 8 p.m. even till 10, that's where you go to work, that's where you maximize, that's where you shut up the TV, and this is your time then to do the business. So whether that's getting on team training, whether that's actually high-paid activities to do what you need to do. Okay, so that's just kind of a little example, but I really would encourage you guys to look at what your day looks like. And I can tell you now, in the morning to the evening and the bits in between, you probably have 4 to 5 hours where you actually can do this business properly. And I tell you what, that is all you need. If you know exactly what you're doing and the times you're doing, that's how I built my business. Okay, so one thing I want to leave you with, because I know we're out of time, is don't beat yourself up. You are all doing amazing, and this business allows us to do that. Reach out when you need help, but this is a mummy's business. This business has allowed so many mums to give them the freedom to actually do this in the stolen moments. But there's also that fine line of making sure that you don't burn out, that you don't put pressure on yourself, and that there is a balance between home life and, and business life as well, and making that a priority in the times it needs to. Okay, hopefully that helped. There is other things, but I know that they've run out of time. But reach out if you do. If you've got any specific questions, ask away. But maybe try that. Give it a try. Really schedule your time and see how that works. And show me. Give it, send it to me and see, does this look okay? I'm happy to do all of that as well. All right. I will end it here.